There's a certain type of person who never yells, never threatens, but somehow still gets their way. They smile while twisting the truth. They praise you just enough to keep control, and by the time you realize what's happening, they've already taken your energy, your time, maybe even your identity. Manipulators don't need power. They just need access to your emotions, your insecurities, and your silence. But here's what they fear most: someone who sees through the game, someone grounded, calm, stoic. The Stoics didn't fight deception with drama, they faced it with discipline. Marcus Aurelius didn't rage at betrayal, he studied it like a surgeon studies illness. Epictetus didn't play mind games, he walked away from them entirely. To a Stoic, emotional clarity is the highest form of power. In this video, we're not going to talk about revenge or confrontation. Instead, we'll explore the timeless tools of Stoic philosophy that help you protect your mind, preserve your energy, and quietly dismantle manipulation before it even begins. If you've ever felt drained by someone you couldn't quite figure out, stay with me. What you'll learn today might just set you free. Number 1. Let silence make you powerful. In a world where everyone is trying to be heard, the greatest advantage often belongs to the one who watches, the one who listens, the one who resists the urge to jump in, to react, to dominate. There is a rare strength in stillness. And to the Stoic, silence isn't a retreat, it's a strategy. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." But how can you know the color of your thoughts if you're always speaking, always reacting, always performing for the world? You can't, because clarity comes when the noise fades and wisdom grows in the space we leave unsaid. Let me give you a scene to consider. There was a young teacher at a tough inner-city school, fresh out of university, full of energy, full of ideas. She entered every classroom trying to command respect with passion and constant explanation. But her students only mocked her energy. They interrupted, challenged, and wore her down. And she felt like she had to fill every silence with direction or lose control. Then one day, she observed another teacher, a quiet, older man who never raised his voice. He didn't talk much at all, but when he did, the room shifted. The students leaned in, not out of fear, but out of respect. He didn't force attention, he earned it through presence. She asked him afterward, "How do you do it?" He smiled and replied, "When you stop needing to prove you're in charge, they start to believe you are." That's the Stoic way. Not loud, not forceful, just composed, just clear. We live in an age of performance. Everyone has a platform, a voice, a reason to speak. But very few have trained the discipline of holding back, of paying attention, of gathering understanding before offering opinion. Most speak to be seen, but the Stoic waits to see clearly. And when you do that, when you observe instead of rushing to speak, you begin to understand what others miss. Not just what's being said, but why it's being said. Not just the argument, but the insecurity hiding behind it, the need, the fear, the hope. Every word people offer reveals a small piece of them, their worldview, their wounds, their desires. And the person who listens closely enough collects these fragments and begins to see the full picture long before anyone else does. You want to be that person, the one who speaks less but says more, the one who doesn't have to dominate the room to lead it, the one whose opinion carries weight, not because it's frequent, but because it's rare and considered. That's why silence is not emptiness. It's pressure. It builds anticipation. It forces others to fill in the blanks. And when you finally speak, your voice lands with impact, not because it's louder, but because it's earned. Picture this in a different setting. A crisis hits a company. Everyone's scrambling, meetings, theories, finger-pointing. People are throwing out half-baked solutions just to sound useful. And then, in the corner, there's one person, quiet, listening, taking notes, watching who blames who dodges responsibility, who speaks in facts, and who speaks in fear. That person doesn't say a word for an hour. But when they do, their insight cuts through the fog like a blade. Because while others were reacting, they were reading the terrain. And now they move with precision. That's not passivity, that's strategy. The art of observation is not about being invisible, it's about becoming unreadable, untouchable. You don't hand out your thoughts for free. You don't give people a map of your mind. You let them wonder. You let them speak, reveal themselves, make assumptions. And all the while, you learn. You learn not only about them, but about yourself. Because when you no longer feel the urge to be heard, you can finally hear yourself. Your thoughts become sharper, your intentions clearer. You recognize the moments when ego wants to speak, and you let it pass. You no longer rush to defend your name, your worth, your choices. You let silence do the work, and often it does it better. That's the hidden benefit. Observation isn't just a tool for understanding others, it's a tool for refining yourself. You speak less, but think more. You act slower, but strike harder. You move through life with intention, not impulse. And in time, people begin to notice. Not because you demand attention, but because your presence commands it. So here's the discipline. In your next conversation, resist the temptation to be the first to speak. Let others reveal their intentions. Ask questions. Watch their reactions. Listen not just for words, but for patterns, for contradictions, for the things they're not saying. Ask yourself, what are they trying to protect? What am I being invited to believe? What's underneath the surface? And then turn that same lens inward. Why do I feel the need to speak here? Is it truth or ego? Is it clarity or anxiety? Train yourself to endure the discomfort of silence, because on the other side of that discomfort is power. Not power over others, but power over yourself. And in a world where everyone is scrambling to be heard, the man who listens, not to respond, but to understand, will always be one step ahead. He's not just navigating the world, he's shaping it, quietly, intentionally, and with unshakable clarity. Speak less. Observe more. And let your silence build the strength your words could never buy. Number 2, let action speak before you ever do. In a world addicted to noise, the rarest and most commanding presence is the one that moves without announcing itself. That's the Stoic way: silent motion, relentless consistency, and the refusal to seek approval for doing what must be done. Where others are eager to explain, to justify, to declare every intention, the Stoic leans into the ancient principle, say less, do more. Epictetus once wrote, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." No parading, no promising, just clear direction followed by quiet execution. And that's what separates those who merely talk from those who truly build. Let me share a different kind of story, one that stayed with me. There was a young woman who worked as a janitor in a city hospital. Most people overlooked her. She was quiet, always early, always focused. While others chatted during breaks, she read medical textbooks. At night, she would borrow used copies from interns and study them alone in the cafeteria. She never told anyone what she was doing. One day, a patient collapsed in the hallway. No doctors around, no nurses in sight. But she was. She recognized the signs of cardiac arrest from her reading, administered CPR, and stabilized the patient long enough for the staff to arrive. Shocked, a physician asked how she knew what to do. She simply replied, "I've been learning." It turned out she'd been preparing for years, studying in silence, applying to medical school without a word to anyone. And within a year, she wasn't pushing mops, she was wearing a white coat. No announcements, no drama, just quiet dedication. And that's the Stoic difference. We live in a culture obsessed with performance, where every effort is shared, every plan is posted, and every small win is broadcasted for likes and applause. But the Stoic knows, energy spent on impressing others is energy stolen from building yourself. You don't need to explain your goals. You don't need to post your grind. You don't need to be seen chasing greatness. You just need to chase it, relentlessly, privately, and with enough force that when the results arrive, they speak so loudly that no introduction is needed. This doesn't mean you hide from the world. It means you let your outcomes speak first. Let your consistency speak. Let your work ethic whisper behind closed doors until one day it shouts without your help. Imagine two people starting a creative project. One announces it to everyone, "Big things coming, watch this space. You won't believe what I'm working on." Months pass. No progress. Just talk. The other one says nothing. No announcement. Just small daily efforts, writing at dawn, editing late into the night, learning quietly, correcting silently. A year later, a finished book, a product launched, a reputation earned. Who do you respect more? That's the thing. Real accomplishment doesn't need a marketing campaign. It needs discipline, it needs solitude, and most of all, it needs silence. The Stoic doesn't need applause because he doesn't act for approval. He acts for excellence. That's the only reward that matters. The quiet knowledge that you're honoring your potential, even when no one's watching. There's something incredibly grounding about this mindset. When you don't have to prove yourself constantly, you reclaim your energy. You stop performing. You start building. You don't rise early to tell people you're disciplined. You rise early because you have something to build. You don't endure hardship to look strong. You endure it because it's shaping who you are. And you don't train your mind and body to get praise. You do it because you respect yourself too much to remain unrefined. Here's another practical example. In a corporate setting, two employees are up for promotion. One constantly reminds management of how hard they're working, how late they're staying, how committed they are. The other just delivers quietly. No complaints, no self-promotion, just reliable, clear, focused execution. Guess who ends up leading the team? The one who doesn't need to say a word. Because there's something deeply magnetic about someone who doesn't chase recognition. Their presence earns it. Their results demand it. The Stoics understood this well. They believed that reputation, if it comes, should follow virtue, not the other way around. They knew that applause is fleeting, but self-mastery endures. When you commit to doing good work for its own sake, you walk a path very few can follow, but the destination is unmatched. So here's what I'd offer you. Set your goals in private, write them down, burn them into your mind, and then forget about impressing anyone. Work every day toward them with ruthless consistency. Sharpen your skills when no one is watching. Build your habits when no one is cheering. Let discipline become your identity, not your announcement. And when your time comes, when the results finally rise to the surface, they won't just show what you've done, they'll reveal who you've become. Let others seek credit. Let them talk. Let them boast. Your job is simpler, more powerful, to become undeniable. Because in the end, true greatness never has to scream. It walks into the room quietly and everyone feels it. So let action be your voice. Let consistency be your presence. Let results be your echo. And may your silence carry more weight than their loudest words. Number 3. Detachment is invincible. Let's talk about one of the most misunderstood forms of strength. Not physical, not intellectual, but emotional. Detachment. The ability to show up fully without being owned by what happens next. While the world teaches you to grip tightly to outcomes, to obsess over success, to cling to praise or fear rejection, the Stoic learns something far more powerful: to hold the world lightly. Marcus Aurelius put it simply: receive without pride, let go without attachment. That's not indifference. It's discipline. It's the ability to live fully, care deeply, and still remain free. Free from being ruled by things outside of your control. Most people live in reaction. They rise and fall with every compliment, every insult, every win, every loss. Their self-worth swings like a pendulum, stable only as long as things go their way. But the Stoic chooses another path. He doesn't retreat from life. He engages fully. But he trains his mind to let go of what isn't his to hold. Let me tell you a story. There was a young chess prodigy, brilliant but emotionally volatile. In practice matches he was unbeatable, but during competitions he often fell apart. If he made a mistake early on, frustration consumed him. If an opponent gloated, he lost focus trying to prove something back. His talent was undeniable, but his mind was enslaved by outcomes. One year, a new coach arrived. He didn't focus on tactics. Instead, he gave the boy one rule: play every move as if you don't care who wins. At first, it made no sense. How do you compete without caring? But the boy tried. He stopped watching the clock. He stopped glancing at the crowd. He simply played, move by move, calmly, thoughtfully, no longer attached to victory, just committed to playing well. And something shifted. Not only did he win more, he enjoyed the game. His power came not from being obsessed with success, but from no longer being owned by it. That's detachment in action. You see, the world often mistakes detachment for apathy. But it's not about withdrawing. It's about showing up without being owned. The Stoic doesn't need the world to clap when he wins. And he doesn't crumble when it turns its back. He focuses on what is his effort, his decisions, his values, and he lets everything else pass through like wind. This mindset is not weakness. It's the root of all power. Because people who are desperate for approval, for victory, for affection become predictable, manipulable. Their emotions are like buttons others can push. Praise them and they bend. Criticize them and they panic. Take something from them and they fall apart. But when you no longer need anything from others, they can't touch you. They don't know how to move someone who doesn't react the way they expect. Imagine someone insults you in public. Most people rush to defend themselves, to argue, to fire back. But the Stoic remains calm, not because he is weak, but because he knows that dignity isn't something others give you. It's something you keep by not lowering yourself to their level. Or picture someone who walks away from you. A friend, a partner, a business ally. Most would cling, chase, plead, but the Stoic allows the loss to pass through him, not because he doesn't care, but because he refuses to be chained to what is no longer his. And yes, this takes practice. Each day you must ask yourself, what is within my control? My intentions? Yes. My actions? Yes. My honesty, my courage, my kindness? All mine. But other people's opinions? No. Whether the plan succeeds? No. Whether they love me or leave me? No. The Stoic draws a line between what is his responsibility and what is not. That clarity gives him peace. I once met a craftsman, an old leatherworker in a quiet town. He spent years refining his work. Each wallet, each bag, each detail was done with care. He didn't advertise. He didn't chase trends. Some months were good, some were not. But he showed up every morning, tools in hand, indifferent to the noise. He would say, "I'm not here to sell leather. I'm here to do honest work." And people noticed. Customers came not for the product, but for the energy, the quiet confidence of a man not rushing, not grasping, just doing his work. That's the power of detachment. It makes you magnetic. People are drawn to those who don't beg to be seen. But even more importantly, it changes how you feel. When you live detached from outcomes, you experience a rare kind of peace. You stop fearing failure. You stop needing praise. You stop chasing everything that never truly satisfies. And you begin living for what actually matters: integrity, growth, presence. So ask yourself, can I work without needing applause? Can I love without clinging? Can I try without being obsessed with triumph? Can I let go without resentment? Because the one who can do these things, the one who moves through life unattached but fully engaged, is unshakable. Detachment doesn't mean stepping back. It means stepping in without fear, giving your all, then letting go. And when you learn to do that, you become the rarest kind of person, untouchable by flattery, undisturbed by insult, and unmoved by anything that does not shape your character. You cannot outmaneuver someone who needs nothing from you. So master this: the art of doing everything with your heart and expecting nothing in return. That's where your real power begins. Number 4. Build a life that doesn't break. Let's talk about the rarest form of strength, the kind that doesn't need to be loud, visible, or applauded. It's the strength of character. A character so grounded in virtue, so steady under pressure, that no betrayal, no loss, no chaos can break it. In a world that sways with every opinion, collapses under criticism, and compromises its values for convenience, the man who stands firm becomes not just powerful, he becomes timeless. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Just that you do the right thing, the rest doesn't matter." That's not a slogan, that's a way of life. Do the right thing, whether or not anyone sees it, whether or not it's easy, whether or not it benefits you immediately. The Stoic understands that true mastery isn't about controlling the world, it's about mastering the self. And that kind of mastery begins not in moments of success, but in how you respond to pressure. Let me give you an example. There was a teacher I once knew, quiet, firm, nothing flashy. He taught in an overcrowded, underfunded school where many had already given up, but he showed up every day with the same calm focus. He didn't complain. He didn't compare himself to others. He didn't ask for recognition. One year, a student falsely accused him of being unfair. It spread. His name was questioned. His job was at risk. Most people would have lashed out or tried desperately to defend their reputation, but he stayed composed. He kept teaching. He kept showing up. When the truth eventually came out, it wasn't just his innocence that people remembered. It was his composure, his dignity under fire, the way he didn't let the chaos change who he was. That's what Stoic character looks like. Because the truth is, the world will test you. You will be judged unfairly. People will betray you. You will face losses you didn't expect. And when that happens, the question won't be, how do I get back what I lost? It'll be, who am I, even when everything else is taken away? The Stoic prepares for this. not by hardening himself, but by deepening his roots, by choosing habits that strengthen him in silence, reading ancient wisdom instead of chasing modern noise, reflecting in solitude instead of reacting online, practicing patience when others rush, practicing humility when praised, and courage when ignored. Character is not built on the surface, it's built in the hours no one sees, when you choose truth over popularity, effort over ease, integrity over gain. These moments may feel small, but they're the foundation of everything. And here's the paradox. When you start living like this, calm, consistent, principled, people will notice. They may not understand it at first. They may even mistake it for weakness. But when the storm comes and others panic, they'll turn to you. Not because you spoke louder, but because you didn't flinch, because your presence brings calm in a world addicted to chaos. Like a well-anchored ship in rough seas, you won't control the wind, but you won't be swept away either. So how do you start building this character? You start by asking one question each day. Did I live by my principles today? Not, did I win? Not, did I get what I wanted? But did I stay true to what I believe in? If the answer is yes, even in the smallest actions, you're building something no one can take away. And yes, it will be lonely at times. The world celebrates speed, noise, and fame, but you'll be walking a slower, quieter path. That's why it's powerful. Because while others burn out chasing recognition, you'll be becoming something solid, something rare, something real. Every time you show patience instead of rage. Every time you do the right thing, even when it costs you. Every time you keep going when no one is watching, you're laying another brick in the fortress of your character. And in the end, you won't need to convince anyone of your worth. You won't need to prove your value. It will be obvious in the way you carry yourself, in the peace you bring, in the steadiness you offer when others fall apart. So don't aim to impress, aim to endure, because when the world breaks, the one who has built himself right doesn't flinch. He simply continues, quiet, composed, unshakable. True strength doesn't shout, it endures. The Stoics taught us that the highest form of power is mastery over the self, to remain calm in chaos, steady in temptation, and anchored in virtue regardless of who's watching. As Epictetus reminded us, no man is free who is not master of himself. So don't measure your worth by attention or applause. Let your discipline, your silence, and your consistency speak for you. If this message resonates with you, consider subscribing. And if you're walking this quiet path too, comment below, steady within. I'd love to know who's building silently, with strength the world can't shake. Until next time, live simply, act boldly, remain unmoved.